Hello, this is Justin at the Tech Train again, and welcome to the 11th video in the series Beginning to Program with Small Basic. And in today's video, we're going to be building on what we looked at in video 10, which was about arrays. And we looked at arrays and understood that they were basically numbered lists of things we want the computer to remember. So we can give the list a title, a name, and then we can give each item in that list a number. So here we had a list of titles. So we created an array, we called it title, and each item in that array was then numbered. We did the same thing with the names list here. We had a list of names. So we had an array for the names and an array for the descriptions. And each of these lists or arrays had a different number of items in them. So what we're going to be looking at today is to take this idea a little bit further and to create an insult generator, something that I know certainly my students generally in the past quite enjoyed. What I've got here, just a few lines of code that I've written to begin with, just to change the background color of the text window to white and the writing to blue. Remember, when you do change the background and the color of the writing, you must then clear the text window for that to take effect. So I've just done that to make it a little bit clearer for us to see. So there we are, you can see that nice and clearly. And now let's get started. Now, the first thing that we need to do when creating an insult generator, or indeed anything along these lines, is to think, what sort of phrase or sentence am I wanting to come up with? So I want to have a sentence that'll say something like, hello, Justin, you are a stinky, revolting imbecile. So that's the kind of, oops, I don't know why I've got the array in there. You are, there we go. So that's the kind of insult I'm looking for. And what I suggest you do is write out a phrase like that, because this will help you break up what it is that we need to do. For example, the word hello is simply going to be a string. The words you are also is going to be a string. But Justin is a name, and we're going to obviously now have to ask the user for their name, store that in a variable, and then use that variable in place of, in this case, the name Justin, so that we've got a very personal insult. And what about these three words? Well, we're going to have to replace each of these words with a random word from an array. So we need to understand what kind of words these are. For example, stinky is describing the imbecile. It's a descriptive word, therefore it's an adjective. Revolting is also an adjective, a describing word. And then imbecile is the noun, the object or thing that we're describing. So you might end up with verbs, you might end up with all sorts of things here, but we'll need to understand the kind of phrase. I'm going to be using this structure, so if you want to follow along with me, that's fine. But if you want to take this a bit further, then you certainly can do that. So, for example, let's move ahead now, and we'll just keep that there for the minute. What I'm going to do is just put a little apostrophe before that line. Now you'll notice that when I do put an apostrophe before the line, it takes all of this font here, all this writing here, and turns it green. That means that it is a comment. In other words, it's just something for my benefit. It's not something that the computer is going to pay any attention to. So anything that you want the computer to ignore, but you just want to have there as a reminder to help you understand what that bit of code was trying to do, just put a single apostrophe at the beginning of it. You don't need one at the end, just one at the beginning. And that will then say to the computer, look, just ignore everything on this line. There we go. Right, so let's first of all make sure that we have the user's name. So I'm going to do a text window, right line, and just ask them to enter their name. So please enter your name. Now we'll need to read whatever they write in the text window, and we'll store that in a variable that we'll call name. So name is text window.read. So now we've got their name and we've stored that in a variable, we would be able to come up with a first part now, the word hello, just a string, the name, and then the words you are a. But we're going to have these three words chosen at some point. So let's do that now. First of all, the word stinky. We don't always want the word stinky. We want that to be different. Every time we run the program, we want that to be a different word. So we're going to have a list of words that the computer can choose from. And because stinky is an adjective, we want a list of adjectives that the computer can choose from. Now we are going to have another list of adjectives for this word here, and we don't want those two words to be the same. So we're going to have two separate lists of adjectives. So I'm going to call this first list adjective 1, and the first item in that, well, we might as well make it the word stinky. There we go. And then let's add another item. So adjective 1, same list, but item 2 in that list, I'm going to put the word horrid, and then adjective 3. So adjective list 1, adjective 1 is the name of the array, but item 3 is going to be smelly. Now, if you start finding that you're running out of words, what you can do is open up your web browser, go to thesaurus.com and type in a word like stinky, and then you'll be able to have a look at all the different possible words that you can use. And you can do that with all your descriptions if you're running out of words or ideas. And if you do find it difficult to think of insulting words, then that's actually a positive. So that's not something to worry about. Okay, so we've now got three different possible words for this adjective. You can obviously add more than three. I'm just doing three for the speed of this video. But let's now do the list of second adjectives. So this is also going to be an adjective, but we want it to be different from this one. So this array is going to be called adjective 2. And because it's a separate array, we're going to begin counting again from 1. So these words need to be different from the words in our first adjective array. So adjective 2 array, item 2 is going to be the word burping. And then adjective 2, item 3 is going to be the word dribbling. And I'm just going to do 3 items in each of my arrays for the moment, just to keep this simple. But the more items that you can add, then the better the insults, the more varied your insults will be. So my third array, the third word that we'll want to make different each time is this word in the example, imbecile, which is a noun. So I want to call my third array noun. Now, because I've only got one noun in this section of my insult, I don't need to call the array noun 1. Although if I thought that maybe later on I might be extending the insult, then we might want to. It's entirely up to you. I'm going to just call it noun. So it's a new array. So again, I'm going to start counting from 1, and I'll write the word imbecile in this one. And then the second item in my noun is going to be the word idiot. And the third item in my noun array is going to be moron. There we go. So now what we've got is, we know that that's a string, so that's fine. We know that that is a variable, and we've already asked them for their name and stored it in a variable, so that bit's fine. You are a, that's simply a string, so we're okay on that one. And now we have our 3 arrays. But of course what we're missing is a way of randomly choosing an item from each array. So what we're going to do now is create a variable called a, and a is going to be a random number between 1 and the total number of items in my first array, which in my case is 3. So a is math.getRandomNumber, and it's going to be 3. Now you might have 3 to begin with, but if later on you decide, oh, I'll tell you what, I just thought of another word for my adjective 1 list. So let's have putrid. There we are, nice word. So you've added an item to this array. This array now contains 4 items. So when you're choosing a random number to use in that array, then you'll need to change this number in brackets. That's now choosing a random number between 1 and 4. And so that will allow the computer to choose any one of these 4 random words. So we're going to do the same thing now with a variable called b, which is going to be a random number. So b equals math.getRandomNumber. And then I'm going to check how many items do I have in my second array. And my second array has 3 items in it. So I want to choose a random number between 1 and 3. And then finally, my third random number, math.getRandomNumber. How many items do I have in my third array? Well, I have 3 items there, so I will put a 3 in brackets. And if you do add to your arrays later on, then that's fine. You can keep on adding to them, just keep updating these 3 numbers. Okay, so we're about ready now to start doing our concatenation. So that's putting it all together, putting together the strings, the variable, and now the words that we will be able to pull from the array. Because a is a random number between 1 and 4, we can now say to the computer, go and have a look at the adjective 1 array, and whatever random number you've put in a, look that number up and then grab the word that's at that position. So if a stored a random number that happened to be 2, the computer would have a look at the first array, find item 2, and then pull out the word horrid, and that would go into our insult. So what we're going to do now is a bit of concatenation. So we'll have a text window, .writeLine, and we're going to start with the word hello. That's what we said we'd have, hello, and then we want their name. So I'm going to put a space first of all, and then concatenate their name, which is stored in the name variable. So hello plus their name. Now we want to join onto that, or concatenate, a comma and the words you are a. And now we need to add to that the random word from the first array. So we write the name of that first array, which is adjective 1, and in square brackets we're going to have to put whatever the number is. Now remember, we don't want to put an actual number, 1, 2, 3 or 4, because if we do, then it will always use that word. That's why we've used these random numbers here. We've used a random number so that that will be different every time. So instead of putting an actual number, we put the variable a, which stores a random number. So in here, I'm writing a. So go to adjective 1 array, find the variable a, look at what number is stored in it, and then look that number up in this array. So it's adjective 1, position a. I hope that makes sense. So if I now just leave it at that, I'm just going to close the round brackets and run the program. Please enter your name, Eric. Hello, Eric, you are a smelly. So obviously it's not finished yet, but you can see we've got the string, we've got the adjective, we've got the string again, and now we have a random word. And if I run this again, so if I put in Bob, hello, Bob, you are a putrid. So see how that's a different word this time. So obviously the first time a was 3 and the second time a was 4. Okay, let's carry on now concatenating this. So I'm just going to get rid of the close bracket at the end, and I'm just going to make this window a little bit wider. As I said before, I do record these videos in 1080 HD, so if you're looking at this and it's a little bit blurred, do make sure that your settings are playing this back in HD 1080 so that you can see this clearly. And I'm zooming in as well so that you can see it as clearly as possible. So I hope that is clear. But if you have any problems or questions, always leave a comment and I will provide support. So here we are. We've got hello, name, you are a. There's our first adjective. Now we're going to join onto that a space, because don't forget we need a space between each word. So I'm going to open speech marks, type a space, close my speech marks, and then I can add my second adjective. So that's going to be from my adjective to array. And this time, of course, I'm not putting an A in there because A was a random number between 1 and 4. And of course, my second array here only has 3 items in it. And so I will need to use B. That's why we have 3 different random numbers for 3 different arrays. So there's my adjective to position B plus another space. So plus speech marks, space, speech marks, plus my noun array. And that, of course, is going to be a random item stored at position C. And then I can close my round brackets. So now if I run the program, please enter your name. Let's have Abigail. Hello, Abigail. You are a horrid, revolting moron. Lovely. Sorry about that, Abigail. And if your name happens to be Abigail, it's not personal, I assure you. Please enter your name. Let's have Poppy. Hello, Poppy. You are a stinky, revolting imbecile. And we'll try one more. Please enter your name. Jack. Hello, Jack. You are a smelly, dribbling moron. So you can see that each time we run the program, it is a random insult. And if we want to extend this, there are 2 main ways in which we can extend this. The first is, of course, by adding more items to each array. So if we decide here for the noun array that I'm going to add a couple of items here. So I'm going to add item 4, which is going to be, let's have another word, imbecile. Let's copy that word and I'm going to bring over my browser with thesaurus.com loaded, and let's have a look at this. Let's try the word idiot. Oh, there we are, dork and twit. Let's add those 2. So here we're going to have dork, and then noun 5 is going to be twit. There we go. So now I've got 5 items in this array. I will now need to come down to my line where I'm choosing a random number for C, C being the third random number. And at the moment, this is only choosing a number between 1 and 3, which will only allow me to choose one of those 3 items. So if I do extend the number of items in an array, I will need to increase this to match the length of that 3rd array. So this is my 3rd array, that is my 3rd random number, so that has to be the same length as the array. So that's one way in which we can extend this program. So if I run it now, we might see perhaps, do we get twit or dork? Oh, there we are, look, straight away. Hello, Justin, you're a stinky burping dork. So straight away there, we can see that working. So that's one way in which we can extend the insult. The other way, of course, is to add more to our sentence. So as an example, hello, Justin, you are a stinking, revolting imbecile who enjoys collecting stinky toilet rolls. Now that perhaps could be a string, who enjoys. Then collecting could be a verb that we have, so it could be collecting, it could be painting, it could be licking, it could be eating, it could be gift wrapping, you know, use your imagination, but that could be a variety of verbs. Stinky, another adjective. We have that over here, so we need a third list of adjectives that's different from these two. And of course, toilet rolls, that again is another noun, so we'd have a noun to array for that one. So that's another way in which you can extend this insult. So there's a couple of different ways in which you can make this become really personal. And I have had students in the past who were able to create enough different random words, so enough arrays, and with enough words in each array that their programs could generate 1 billion different random insults, which for some students that I've taught in the past is almost enough for a full day. So I hope you enjoyed that little project. If you need any advice or whatever, please do leave comments below. What I suggest you do before you move on to the next tutorial is just to pause this, have a little go at doing that yourself. Try that whole project by yourself, see if you can. Inevitably, you'll make mistakes. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Mistakes are fine, mistakes are good. Because mistakes help us to identify our weaknesses and therefore become stronger and improve on those areas. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's absolutely to be expected. What's important is when you do make a mistake, don't get frightened, don't run away from the error messages. Have a look at them, they're there to help you. Have a look back at my code, remind yourself what it was that I did, and then hopefully you'll get better and better at doing that. But there's a lot included in this particular project. We've got variables, we've got input, we've got output, we've got arrays, we've got random numbers, we've got concatenation, we've got strings. So there's an awful lot involved, and of course we've even got grammar in there as well. So there's a lot involved in this project. So I hope you really enjoyed that project. In the next video we're going to be looking at another little project. We're going to go back and have a look at the turtle in a way and think about some more advanced graphics using shapes. So when you're ready, I'll see you in tutorial 12.